Coming up on MilCyberSync, the White House warns of increased cyber attacks and asking the private sector to step up its game.
Also ahead, hacktivists targeting the largest oil pipeline company in the world.
And cyber criminals resorting to triple extortion methods. We'll explain why. So get ready to get in sync with MilCyberSync.
You're watching the MilCyberSync Weekly News with your host, Nick Thomas, and news anchor, Layla Gulin.
Hello and welcome to the MilCyberSync Podcast, reporting on the latest events happening in cyber news. I'm Layla Gulin with your host, Nick Thomas. Hey there, Nick.
Hey, Layla, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's jump right in, okay? In news this week, the White House is urging the private sector to be particularly diligent in its cyber defense to better protect critical infrastructure. Officials are warning that the war in Ukraine and subsequent sanctions against Russia could lead malicious cyber activity against the United States. Specific industries have not been mentioned. However, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Tech says classified intelligence that officials have observed preparatory activity by Russia. This activity includes scanning websites and hunting for vulnerabilities. Layla?
Well, the FBI has issued an urgent bulletin warning that some 140 Russian IP addresses have conducted network scanning activity on at least 5 U.S. energy firms. The Bureau is reportedly saying that the activity likely amounts to network reconnaissance to identify vulnerabilities to enable potential future intrusions. The FBI says the abnormal scanning activity has been aimed toward other U.S. companies across the defense industrial base, financial services, and information technology industries. There has been an uptick in scanning since February 24th at the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. FBI officials urged those in the public sector to use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication and to perform patching and regular software updates. Nick?
Well, U.S. satellite networks may be in Russia's crosshairs as the conflict over Ukraine's sovereignty continues. CISA and the FBI put out the alert saying they are aware of possible threats to U.S. and international satellite communication networks. Successful intrusions into SATCOM networks could create risk in SATCOM network providers' customer environments. The alert comes as the National Security Agency is reportedly investigating Russia's responsibility for a hack of a U.S. satellite provider, Viasat, that affected networks in Ukraine. Providers are asked to be on high alert for anonymous traffic. The intelligence community's report suggests Russia might be well positioned to attack U.S. satellites. The advisory also detailed mitigations applicable to both customers and providers of satellite networks, including access and privilege management practices and multi-factor authentication. Layla?
Well, as humanitarian aid flows into Eastern Europe, hackers allegedly affiliated with Russia are persistently targeting Ukraine. Such attacks include those on logistic circuits and the supply of food and humanitarian support for cities where civilians have been shelled and bombed. Attackers are also focusing on critical infrastructure, both state-owned and private, and mainly with a connection to land-to-air invasion. Observed attackers are also targeting organizations that publish information about war crimes online. At least 4 types of malware have been deployed. They're called Hermetic Wiper, Isaac Wiper, Caddy Wiper, and 00. Nick?
Well, hacktivist groups are targeting key state-backed organizations in Russia. The nearly daily attacks by those affiliated with Anonymous has claimed Transneft as their latest victim. Transneft is a Moscow, Russia-based state-controlled pipeline transport company. It is also known as the largest oil pipeline company in the world. Distributed Denial of Secrets is a non-profit whistleblower organization that announced receiving 79 gig worth of emails belonging to Transneft's research and development division called Omega last week. According to the details shared by DDoS Secrets, the email leaks contain the email accounts data of company employees. The data doesn't just include email messages, but also sensitive files such as invoices and product shipment information. Layla?
Well, a 23-year-old Russian national has been indicted in the U.S. and added to the FBI's cyber most wanted list. He's accused of being the administrator of Marketplace A cyber crime forum that sold stolen login credentials, personal information, and credit card data. The suspect first appeared in hacker forums in 2013 under the alias Floraby. He's facing charges of wire fraud, access device fraud, and aggravated identity theft. He could face up to 20 years in federal prison. Well, we've got more to come. A 2-week cyber intensive still has spots available. Details after the break.
Today's network and security monitoring solutions are vulnerable to overload situations that lead to decreased visibility and undetected intrusions. Monitoring applications require hardware to keep up with real-time traffic analysis, making it complex and costly. Your security monitoring solutions may be unable to keep up during cyber attacks or traffic spikes, making intrusion more likely. A new approach is needed to increase network protection and visibility. Excelio simplifies and streamlines your network monitoring for critical security, network, and application analysis. Learn more at excelio.com.
Welcome back. A new report shows that ransomware is continuing to expand, with double extortion now the standard. Red Canary's 2022 threat detection report analyzed more than 30,000 confirmed threats across the firm's customer base. The report notes that ransomware criminals have responded to improving target company backups by introducing sensitive data exfiltration and the threat of exposure. If both backups and data encryption tokenization are protected, then the need to pay a ransom is reduced. If the criminals are not paid, they will cease to use ransomware and move instead to a new or more rewarding type of attack, the addition of a DDoS attack, sometimes called triple extortion. Nick?
The reason for this development is that malware detection has become more efficient. Criminals have moved towards a methodology that is more difficult to detect using legitimate tools that are not automatically flagged as nefarious, allowing the adversary to get more deeply entrenched without or before detection. Noteworthy threats of 2021 include TA551, an email-based threat actor affecting more than 10% of Red Canary's customers, Rose Flamingo's a new activity cluster that focuses on opportunistic, financially motivated malware and uses SEO poisoning to lure victims. Layla?
Well, as the war in Ukraine rages on, economists and foreign policy experts are warning that Russia could resort to blockchain-enabled transactions to either funnel oligarch money or attempt to revive its economy. The U.S. Department of the Treasury is reportedly warning that it has detected a rise in the use of digital assets for illicit transactions since February 24th at the start of the invasion. Officials say transaction volume is too insignificant to aid Moscow and that the crypto assets being transferred cannot power an economy. They also say that Russia lacks sufficient infrastructure to pivot to cryptocurrencies. Senator Elizabeth Warren has introduced legislation titled the Digital Asset Sanctions Compliance Enhancement Act, which would discourage foreign crypto firms from doing business with sanctioned Russian elites. Nick?
Software giant HubSpot says it has become the victim of a data breach. The customer relationship management firm is a third-party vendor for cryptocurrency companies and cites a compromised employee account as the entry point. Several cryptocurrency firms, BlockFi, Swan Bitcoin, Paxos, and NYDIG, among others, have confirmed some customer data was leaked via HubSpot. Since the SolarWinds attack, cyber criminals have discovered it can be lucrative to hit third parties. The investigation is ongoing, and HubSpot is advising clients of affected companies to contact customer support. Layla?
More than 200 HP printer models were impacted by a severe remote code execution vulnerability that was exploited by researchers at the Pwn2Own hacking contest last year. The high-severity security hole is described as a buffer overflow, and HP warns that it can be exploited to execute arbitrary code remotely. The flaw is related to the use of link local multicast name resolution and exists because the length of user-supplied data isn't properly validated validated before it is copied to a fixed-length stack-based buffer. HP lists roughly 250 printer models that are impacted by this bug. They include Enterprise, LaserJet Pro, PageWide Pro, DeskJet, and DesignJet series devices. Participants earned a total of more than $1 million at the event. Nick?
Wow, that's some good money, Layla. Well, 5 new security weaknesses have been disclosed in Dell BIOS. If successfully exploited, an attack could lead to code execution on vulnerable systems. The high-severity vulnerabilities are rated 8.2 out of 10 on the CVSS scoring system. Experts say the active exploitation of all the discovered vulnerabilities cannot be detected by firmware integrity monitoring systems. This is because of limitations of the Trusted Platform Module measurement. All the flaws relate to improper input validation vulnerabilities affecting the system management mode of the firmware, effectively allowing a local authenticated attacker to leverage the system management interrupt to achieve arbitrary code execution. Dell products, including Alienware, Inspirion, Vostro, Lineups, and Edge Gateway 3000 series are impacted, so make sure you check those out. Layla?
Good advice. All right, well, CISA is flagging the maritime transportation sector as a major target for Russian adversaries. Having been previously disrupted via cyber attacks, Director Jen Easterly says the importance of securing and protecting these systems is paramount and is expected to become increasingly prevalent over the next few years. Among the entities in this sector include the U.S. Coast Guard and shipping giant Maersk. Easterly stressed the importance of public-private partnerships and used the opportunity to recruit talent for her agency. Nick?
The Pentagon's implementation plan for its Joint All-Domain Command and Control, or JADC2 effort, was finally signed this week. The long-awaited plan allows top officials to focus on delivering minimum viable technology products that will be put into action. Among a range of those products is a common platform for applications based on DevSecOps. Insiders intend to push some of the Defense Department's most misbehaving applications through a redevelopment gauntlet. This will reformat them into useful tools that enable necessary data sharing capabilities in that impending DevSecOps environment. The DoD ultimately intends to drive interoperability and communication between its many systems, notably across domains, and ultimately provide for improved decision-making among its personnel. Layla?
New step for the Army Cyber Command. Soldiers of the 60th Offensive Cyberspace Operations Signal Battalion placed a new shoulder sleeve insignia on their uniforms, joining the ranks of the Army Cyber Protection Brigade. Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Weber is commander of the 60th and says the ceremony signifies the unit's first official act under the CPB and taking its network operations and information service skills to the next level. Well, he says the unit will now broaden its strategic responsiveness as it assumes roles and responsibilities under the CPB, as well as continuing mission support for Army Cyber Command. The 60th was activated in October 2021 to support and defend infrastructure and networks. Nick?
A 2-week-long cyber exercise is set for early September. The training will provide select technology developers with an opportunity to demonstrate their capabilities in a real-time, realistic scenario with military members. It's called the Cyberspace Defense in Denied, Degraded, and Disconnected Environments Advanced Naval Technology Exercise, or ANTEX 2022. That's a mouthful. It marks a coordinated campaign by defense officials to pinpoint technologies and develop tactics to support defensive cyber operations for systems floating out in a body of water from elsewhere on the shore. CyberAntics will differ from past exercises of its kind in that it will integrate a complex, traditional drill with unique assets available at the National Cyber Range Complex in Charleston, South Carolina. Interested participants are invited to submit prototype proposals to the Naval Information Warfare Center Atlantic's new commercial solutions, opening by March 29th. Layla?
All right, Nick. Well, wow, that was a busy week, wasn't it?
It sure was.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us. On behalf of Nick and myself, thank you so much for watching. You're now in sync with MilCyberSync. We'll see you next time.